Hello, CTA family. Welcome to the Compete Mentality Podcast. The Compete Mentality Podcast will host basketball coaches, players, and trainers from all around the state of Indiana, country, and world. The mission of the Compete Mentality Podcast is to motivate, educate, and lead others in their faith, basketball, and personal journey to compete. Our definition of competing is doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard. No matter what area of life it is in, we are all called to compete. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you today Ryan Mansbarger, Grant County native, Eastbrook alum, and current Goshen College basketball player. Ryan, thanks for joining us today, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. And Ryan is a player that has trained with me for 3 years. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, 3 years now. And we have a really good relationship, and I just love Ryan. And Ryan's got a really powerful testimony to share. We're going to dive into that today. But Ryan, just kind of give us a brief background of who you are, where you're from, and kind of where you are today.
So I'm from Van Buren, Indiana. Pretty small town, rural. Went to Eastbrook High School, like you said. Was a 4-year varsity leader there. Played under Coach Brian Childs. Guy's basically second father to me. Got a lot of respect for him. All-time leading scorer at Eastbrook. Record held there for over 40 years. So that was pretty cool to hold that feat now there. Was never on too good of teams in high school. We always kind of struggled. Wasn't a highly recruited kid either. Coming out of high school, found myself at Goshen, and ever since then it's been a whirlwind. It's been kind of crazy. Bounced around a little bit. Was at Goshen for a year. Decided to leave. Didn't think it was really a place for me. Then I went to Franklin College, and I was only there for a semester. Just didn't really feel like I was called to play basketball anymore, and decided to take a step away. So I sat out a year. Just went to school at Indiana University of Kokomo, and I felt God kind of pulling me back to play again, and I was getting looked at by a couple schools from out of state, and with COVID and everything, just the likelihood of a season potentially getting canceled, I didn't really want to go all the way that far away from home. So I decided to reach out to Coach Trofe here at Goshen, and I was lucky to have me back, and here I am today.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive into each part of your journey and stage of life that you've been through in this podcast today. And I want to dive into really your time in high school. And I remember my son Grayson was just born, and I had to run to CVS to get some things. I forget what I was getting, but I was listening to the Grant 4 on the radio, and some dude was just going off. Like, I believe he scored 45.
Yep.
Is that right? 45. And I remember, like, sitting in my car, like, listening to the end of the game. And was that against Mississinewa?
Yep, Mississinewa.
Yes. So you're pouring in 45 against Mississinewa. And I remember, like, I had to go run and get something for my wife real quick. And I remember just hanging in there listening. I'm like, dang, this dude is getting it done. And that's kind of when I first started following you and had heard about you. And it's like, man, this kid can really shoot it. And just kind of go through, you hear the term in the zone tossed around all the time. And that day you were in the zone. Kind of describe that game to us.
So there was a little bit of extra motivation that game. There was some social media exchange that happened earlier in the year. I kind of instigated it. Mississinewa had a great team. I mean, won Grant 4 the year before. They had a lot to be proud of, a lot to be excited about coming into the new season. Had a couple of transfers come in that are really solid players that are now playing at the NAIA level.
Yep.
I was kind of tired of seeing what they had to say. And we had Capone Johnson come in, who really changed the game for us. And I was really confident in the team we had. We had a really good summer, and so
Yep.
and I was like, like, why not try to give our guys a little bit extra motivation too? Kind of get them hyped up for the season, hyped up for when we play them. I mean, that's a big county rival,
Absolutely.
and I can just remember them coming to our court my junior year and just, I mean, they beat the tar out of us. I think they beat us by 40, and so we got a host grant for at our place. The last time we hosted it, we won it, and I felt like we had a team that was good enough to compete for a Grant County championship game, and we got lucky, and we got to draw Mississinawa for the first game. And I can remember our coach was super excited. We actually put in a new defense, specifically running in. They weren't a very good shooting team. They had two 6'4", 6'5" kids on the low block that were really tough that we really couldn't match up with them. So we just played a super pack line defense, made them hit threes, and I mean, we had to score the ball too. And I can remember first play, we ran Celtic. I mean, it was a little dribble handoff action to me coming out of the corner, ball screen on the wing. I remember coming off I was probably 4 feet behind the line, and I shot it. I mean, it didn't touch anything. I mean, it was
Right.
the net barely moved. And as soon as that happened, I was like, if they're gonna have this kid guard me the whole game, it's gonna be a long night for him. And it was exactly that. I mean, they threw everybody at me. I mean, they didn't have an answer. And I mean, I can just remember, like, I think we were down by like 6 or 7 in the first half, and I went on like a run by myself. We got some stops, and I just came down, and it was a three, a 2, a layup, and then it was just kind of back and forth, and we got a big rebound. Capone tossed one back to me. I was probably 2 steps in front of the volleyball line,
For
and
sure.
I mean, I launched it. Basically, as soon as I shot it, turned back around, knew it was going in.
Yep.
Crowd went crazy, and at that point, I knew. I was like, all they gotta do is give me the ball. I throw it, it's going in. I mean, it doesn't matter what I do. I think I went 14 of 14 from the line that game. I think I ended up hitting like 22 free throws in a row in the tournament. I didn't miss a free throw the entire tournament. Um, so I mean, it was laser focus. I mean, I was on a mission. Um, I'm big. If you're gonna talk crap, you better be able to back it up.
Yep.
And there was obviously that pressure. Like, I wasn't about to be laughed at either. I mean, I wasn't gonna be a laughing stock. I wasn't gonna talk a bunch of smack and then get beat by 40.
Right.
And what weight do I hold then? So, I mean, yeah. I mean, the game was a lot of fun. I actually go back and I watch it every once in a while for if I'm ever feeling down in the dumps,
Yeah.
lacking a little bit of confidence. I'll just throw that game up on my computer and just watch it and just see how much fun I have with my friends. I mean, yeah, what a time.
Absolutely. And yeah, man, that's being in the zone at its definition, and that's kind of where I heard your name, and we were training, and we started our training in 2015 with CTA, and that was kind of the first time your name really stepped up in my mind and started following you. And I'll kind of fast forward to your freshman year at Goshen. I was following you, and I believe I sent you a DM. She said, "Hey man, really like your game, and when you come home, I don't know if you train with anybody or not, but I would love to talk to you about training." And you hit me back, and we were like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to train with you." And that's kind of where our relationship started. And if I'm completely honest with you, like when you walked in the barn the first time to train, like, and we went through that workout, I remember going inside telling Courtney, I'm like, yeah, this guy's got a lot of talent. He looks like $1,000,000 going through workouts. Like, he's hitting a ton of shots at a high rate, high percentage. But you kind of lacked a little physicality, a little bit soft on the defensive end. And that's something you and I have really focused on for the last 3 years. And I'm looking at your stats right now. in your this is technically your junior year, sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year, yeah, with this.
Yep, because COVID, I get.
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
3 years.
so sophomore year at Goshen, you're averaging 16 points a game. You just dropped 25 at Bethel. Your first game, you had 22 at Oakland City. You've hit 14 threes in 5 games, about 3 a game. And I remember when I remember I've been watching your games and stats, and I remember against who was it? Against Grace, you went 1 for 9 from 3.
Yeah.
but they couldn't take you off the court, and I remember looking at those, and I'm like, man, they still can't take them off the court because now you have added other elements to your game, like being able to guard your yard, being able to box out, being able to be a tough basketball player. And we have this saying at CTA that mindset is greater than skill set.
Yep.
So you walk in the barn, you have this great skill set, but you didn't have the mindset part yet.
Mm-hmm.
And would you say over the last 3 years, the mindset is where you've grown the most?
Oh, by far. I wouldn't even say it's close. I mean, I've always had the belief that I've had the skill set ever since a pretty early age that I can play against anybody. And I had the mindset too of in high school. I mean, I walk in every game. I mean, obviously, defense was a little bit optional, so that's
high school basketball.
And that's why I was so far behind going into college. I mean, I knew I was going to score 25 points every single game my senior year, and I knew nobody was going to stop me.
That's right.
And if they were, it was going to take all 5 guys on their team.
Yep.
It was gonna leave opportunities for other guys to go score. And I mean, we play smaller class basketball. I mean, the other team's best players really not that great. I mean, obviously we play Oak Hill, Frankton, played in a really tough conference.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I guess that really doesn't hold true. But in our non-conference games, like
right.
the best player was averaging 15 points, and I was like, well, I can do enough to let them not get that. And so, but yeah, I had a rude awakening when I got to college. In my freshman year, I didn't take it very well. You know, I was like, I thought, you know, I had the skill set on offense. You know, I feel like I can play, but you know, I couldn't get it done on the defensive end. And that's what a lot of coaches care about in college. Come to find out, I mean, you got to be able to play both sides of the ball, and I mean, you got to be pretty well at doing both. And I wasn't good on the offensive end to start off my time at Goshen. I start off the year 0 for 19.
Yep.
And you want to talk about being a mental train wreck. That's what I was and more. I mean, I was lost. I mean, basketball had been something that I was always good at. I mean, something of just putting the ball in the basket is something I did very well. I did pretty efficiently in high school, and then, you know, you get recruited to do just that, and you can't, and then you have nothing to offer on the defensive end. You're not going to play.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always love telling players, like, you cannot find your identity in your jumper. Your jumper is going to be, especially at the college level, it's going to be there. Some games it's not going to be. But your team's got to be able to count on you in other areas of the game, like being able to guard your yard, being able to get rebounds, being able to go in and dive on a loose ball or take a charge. And that is why a coach can't take you off the floor. And you've developed this mindset. And so kind of describe to our listeners of how the past 3 years at CTA, I've really helped you develop this mindset in your game.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is the belief that I can. You know, it's always you know, it's kind of like when your parents tell you to do something and you don't do it, and then somebody else tells you to do something, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll do it. You tend to listen to other people that aren't initially so close to you to start off. better than the people that are closest to you. And like in high school, like I had my coach that would pour in a lot of confidence to me. And I'd have my parents, and I got to college, and it's one thing to hear that from them, but it's just like, I mean, you kind of have to say this, like you're kind of obligated to say you can do this. And then, I think you hit me up a little bit after, right. It was towards the end of the season at Goshen. And I mean, confidence is at an all time low. I really didn't know if I wanted to play basketball ever again after that, because it was a disaster season for me. And I was embarrassed. I was like, Caleb Middlesworth had a great year. I mean, freshman player of the year from the county. And like I'm sitting there, I'm kind of comparing myself to him. Like, this dude, he got it done. I mean, averaged like 15 a game, was pretty unstoppable. I mean, production was super high, was super efficient. And then I was like, I'm gonna give it another shot. But this time I'm gonna be prepared. And I knew for sure that you're gonna get me prepared on the court, skill set wise, but had no idea the impact that you're gonna have on my mindset. I mean, we've had a lot of really good talks that have really helped me, and walk away from the barn some nights thinking like, it's just nice to have somebody else that understands the game, that is good, that was once really good. I mean, still good. I mean, I mean, probably one of the best shooters I've ever seen. So it's like the respect that I have for you, and the confidence that you kind of poured into me, and the belief that you had. I mean, that's just kind of helped me hit the ground running. And then just the way that you teach the game, the way that you train us, and you develop that skill set, I think directly correlates into how you're going to think too. I mean, everything that we do is with a purpose. And I think that, I don't think that just correlates just to basketball, but I think that correlates to life too. I mean, if you're going to do something, I mean, do it with purpose, and think like positive thoughts about it, and be intent about it. Not just, I kind of have to do it, so I'm going to do it. It's just kind of that drive, and that compete mentality. I mean, a lot of things in life aren't easy. I mean, and you're called to do a lot of challenging things, and you have to do it. I mean, doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard.
Yeah, and I love what you just said right there. You have to do it, and I appreciate the compliments. But as a trainer, I can only do so much. I can only give a player so many tools. I can only give a player so much advice. But then it's up to the player to actually do it, and that's one of the most rewarding things for me to see through you, and that in training. That is part of the process that I love the most, is when a player truly gets it. And I remember, so after you transferred home from Franklin and you're going to IUK, and you hit me up and you're like, hey man, I need to talk. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Let's meet up. And you came to my office, and I mean, you just poured your heart out to me of how you really wanted to play college basketball. And we kind of had a heart to heart and come to Jesus moment right there. And I remember telling you, dude, the first thing you got to do is catch on fire for Jesus. Like, anything of lasting, eternal significance that happens in this life starts with catching on fire for Jesus. If you look over the course of Scripture, and anybody that did anything great, it started with catching on fire for Jesus. And take us back to that moment of catching on fire for Jesus about a year ago. Actually, it was in December, I believe, of 2019. So a little over a year ago, about 13 months ago, where you decided, hey, that's it. To kind of walk us through that moment and just the lessons you learned from that.
Yeah. So, I was at a pretty, I would say I was at probably the lowest spot in my entire life at that moment. Just things didn't really go near as planned, near as what I thought at Franklin. I had a lot of resentment towards God. I was like, I've put all this work in. I've worked so hard. Like, I'm working harder than these dudes that are playing in front of me. Like, I'm better than them too. Like kind of, why are you doing this to me? Like, I'm a guy that I want it. Like, I want it so bad, but I wanted it in all the wrong ways. and
Mm.
now to look back at it, it was all self-fulfilling, and it wasn't for God. It wasn't for the people that were most important to me. Um,
Mm.
and it took me a minute to realize that. I mean, I can remember texting. I remember having that talk, coming home and talking about it, and it took me a minute to catch on fire. And, I started off the new year. My great grandpa passed away. I mean, that crushed me as somebody I was really close to. And ever since then, I was like, like, what would him, and like my great grandma passed away like a couple years before then, and like I was really close to him. I was like, what would they want me to do in this situation? I mean, I'm going through a little bit of loss. My mental state is not very good. I mean, I'm kind of depressed, and I'm anxious about stuff that just really wasn't like that in high school.
Yep.
I had a lot of talks with my family, and just kind of to seek advice from them. And my grandpa too. I've got probably my biggest role model is my grandpa, and I mean, he just kept telling me, have faith, like just get in the word, be consistent. And he goes, and he goes, and I'm gonna pray for you. He goes, you do the work, and I'll be a prayer warrior for you. And just to know that, like that kind of got it started. And so I can remember, like, it was towards the end of my spring semester at IUK. Like, I just downloaded the Bible app again, and I just started doing a little bit of devotionals, and I just really got into it, and I really caught on fire, and it's something that is now a part of my day. I think I've had a couple of days while I've been here where I haven't gotten in the word, and I almost feel sick. Like, it's like it's like it's kind of like the same thing. Like, people that are like addicted to fitness, if they don't work out a day, they feel kind of gross with themselves. And I mean, that's kind of how I felt like when I haven't gotten into the word. It's like what it was kind of a pointless day. I mean, I wasted a day by not thanking my creator for giving me it.
Mm.
Like, and the one, like, I know this is a kind of cliche thing to say, but tomorrow is never promised. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to wake up alive or wake up able to do the things that I'm able to do today. And just to simply not take 10 minutes out of a 24-hour day to thank him, to get into his word, and to learn more about him, and to learn how that I can grow as a person, as a basketball player, in all aspects of life. I think it's a slap in the face to God. Because I mean, he's given me all the tools, just like you've given me all the tools as a basketball player. And it's like, what am I going to do with it? And I mean, that has been my mindset really ever since probably March of last year. Is I've got everything that I need. Now go do what you need to do with that. And for me, it's been super intentional time. I mean, I take about an hour a day now just for myself, no distractions, and whether if it's just listening to praise and worship, getting a podcast, doing a devo, or just flipping open my Bible and reading a chapter. I mean, I'm going to be intentional with that time, because that's the most important thing in my life. I used to claim that it was, and it was fake. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it was on the back burner. And that I think that my wake up call was basketball not going well for me, at the collegiate level. And God took something that had been so constant and so fulfilling, and made it not, and to redirect my attention. And I think that vouches for how he works in amazing ways, and everything that he does is very intentional, and it's with a lot of purpose. And I mean, you almost have to be blind not to see it. I mean, you just have to put on the spiritual blinders to not recognize it. And I was at a point where I couldn't have that. I was kind of my last hope of, I need something, and here he comes. I mean, doing what Jesus does, and I mean, he saved me from a spot that I didn't want to be in, and now I'm happier than I could ever be. I mean, I my I mean, I'm on fire still. I mean, I just
Absolutely. And listeners, you can hear just the passion in the way Ryan is talking about right now. And that's what really fueled his training. And so last January, a year ago, he's coming into workouts, and we have this time called Feed Me Time. And this is where we always say before we get into workouts, you got to get your mind right. You can't get into workouts with getting into God's word beforehand, because that is the solid foundation that's going to fuel you without getting into a podcast, without getting getting fed in some way to motivate you through workouts. And Ryan's coming in, and every single workout, he's got something ready to talk about in the first 5 minutes of the workout in this Feed Me Time. And he's just so on fire for Jesus. And that didn't stop, and it hasn't stopped for a whole year now. And that is a direct correlation in his spiritual life and his identity on the court. His identity is not in how many points he scores. He is focused on playing hard for his Creator. And when you take the focus off yourself and trying to get yours and trying to do it for personal gain, and you focus on playing hard for your Creator, everything else just falls into place. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you start hitting shots because there's not pressure. All of a sudden, you're diving on loose balls that you wouldn't have dove on before. You're encouraging teammates because you believe in them, because it all stems from this relationship you have with Jesus, and it's fueling you. And this is what we're all about at CTA. And so his passion for Christ started an absolute fire that can't be burnt out. And now it has carried over into his play, and it's been so cool to see. Now he's averaging 16 points a game. He just dropped 25 against one of the best teams in the country in Bethel. And it all started from catching on fire for Jesus. Ryan, I want to talk a little bit more as we wrap up here about the training specifically here. I would love to talk about the relationship of AAU and training. Both needed, but I also believe it's very situational per kid of how to grow as a player. I love to say that AAU is where you showcase what you've worked in training all week. Mm-hmm. And man, I really wish we would have met in high school. And been able to train you through high school. I was coaching college basketball at Indiana Wesleyan at the time. But tell us really your experience of training with me and how it has benefited you compared to just playing in an AAU game. What's the difference?
I would say AAU is only worthwhile for kids if you're going to be put on a gauntlet team. So your Adidas and your Nikes, or Under Armour. If you're not going to be on an EY team, if you're not going to be on one of the best Indiana elite teams, you're wasting your money. And I wish I would have known that. I mean, my family, I was kind of the first one to be really big into sport and only want to do that. I mean, my brother and sister were multiple sport athletes. So they just did stuff in the summer, like workouts and stuff with the school. And like my brother played football, my sister played volleyball. So they were pretty tied down to that in the summer, getting ready for those fall seasons. But for me, I wanted to play basketball.
Right.
And I did a Steve Alford workout. I mean, almost every day throughout high school. My dad would go in and he would put me through the workout, and really good growing time with him. But I wish, and my dad and I have talked about this. We were like, wow, like we wish we would have known Jordan, and like when we were when I was in high school, because things probably would have been a lot different.
Sure.
Which, I mean, thankfully I'm still successful, but AAU was something that was very frustrating. It actually at times it was very challenging on my on confidence, because I mean it's a very different style of basketball, a style of basketball that I am not used to playing. It is a if you're not on a gauntlet team, it is a one-on-one. I'm trying to show that I'm the best player in the gym. I don't care about any of the other 4 dudes that are on this court with me. And and for me, it is a complete waste of money. I wish my parents would have never put money into it, and I wish they would have just sent me somewhere, and I would have trained, and I feel like I would have gotten a lot better from that. Now, granted, I did get better just because the level of competition I was playing against was better than a lot of high school teams I was playing, or what I could have been doing during the high school time with my
For
high school
sure.
teams. But other than that, I mean, I really don't see the point in it. I mean, I think I was probably I was good enough to probably come off the bench and play minimal roles on a better team, but we didn't know anybody either. I mean, I think that has a lot to do with it. If you have connections, go ahead. I mean, you're going to get put on a good team. You're going to play in really good tournaments. You're going to get a lot of exposure. You're probably going to get a lot better. But I mean, I'm just playing with I think my senior year. I mean, I really liked the guy that was my coach, but he was just like a college football player that wanted to coach basketball. And it's like, how is that going to make me any better? Like, we're practicing once a week, just going and playing on the weekends, and to me it was kind of pointless.
Absolutely, and like I said, the marriage is very unique with AAU in training, and I think the biggest thing is with training, that is where you're really working on your skill set. You're getting those reps in, you're adding tools to your toolbox of your game, and in AAU, that's where you get to go play against a more talented individuals, like you said, and also it's very important depending on who the coach is of your AU team. If this is just, thrown together, or they really have a program and they really work on training and practice and different things like that. And so that can be really tricky. But you definitely is where you get better is in the training during the week, and you show your skill set off and in AAU. And I love talking about in AAU. It's a great way to get seen, to market yourself to coaches. That's where college coaches, being a college coach for 4 years, that's where I went to go watch players in the off season. But if your trainer and what I encourage you guys to find, and what we take pride in at CTA, is helping you through that process. So my wife and I both have a lot of college contacts that we love helping a player realize where they want to go play basketball, what their purpose is in life, and helping them market themselves to colleges and to coaches. And I remember this offseason making a highlight for Ryan and sending that out to coaches and talking with coaches. And it was just a God thing that Ryan ended right back where he started his freshman year. But that is can be a very difficult process that Courtney and I both love and take pride in. Ryan, kind of as we wrap up our podcast here, I really miss being away from you and the feed me times that we used to have. I want you to feed me right now, man. Like, what is God telling you in your personal quiet time right now, and how's He working in your life?
I mean, I've been actually I'll pull up the book right now. I've been reading off and on The True Competitor. You gave it to me when we did a little bit of like a what do you call it? Like a Q&A.
Yep.
And I stopped reading it for a little bit. I was big into reading it when I got to started training again with you after I took a little bit of a break. So I've been reading this a bunch. Actually just read today. It's called Super Size Me. Toxic material will make you sick. And it says, one leak will sink a ship and one sin will destroy a sinner. I mean, it kind of talks about how the guy did the 30, 40-day challenge of the Super Size Me, and how it absolutely ruined his body. And I mean, it kind of talks about I kind of like how sin plays a very similar role to you.
For sure.
Kind of the what God can do for you. I mean, he can cleanse you and forgive you. I mean, the ultimate goal is to be saved, and one day be able to go up and meet your creator. And another thing I've been doing devos over faith. Actually, on MLK Day, Monday, I saw one of his quotes, and it really spoke to me. And it says, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." And I think that is probably the biggest testimony that I have through this whole ordeal. There's a lot of uncertainty this transferring third time around. Really didn't know if I wanted to play. I felt called to, but I was just kind of, I was hot and cold about it. But I was like, you know what, God, like, you're calling me, you're pulling my heartstrings. I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna do this recklessly. Like a song that worship song, like it's reckless love. And that's just kind of what it's been for me. Just I've been just super intentional on trying to cut out a lot of sin in my life, just focusing more on God, having a lot of faith, because faith without works is dead. So I mean, just being super intentional. Just whatever I can get for the day is what I'm going to go with. So,
man, we can drop the mic right there, ladies and gentlemen. There's so much inspiration right there. Ryan, man, how old are you now?
21.
He's 21 years old, and you guys can just hear the spiritual maturity that he has and how he's handled adversity in his life. He's of transferring and finding his way, but he ultimately led to a solid foundation with Jesus. And man, Ryan, as you can hear, CTA family is a special, special person. And so, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast. I learned a lot from you, and I always love being with you. Iron definitely sharpens iron, and as much as you graciously said that I've impacted you, you've done the same for me. It's a two-way street, man, and you've impacted me in mighty ways and have inspired me. And that is how we measure success at CTA, is by the way we inspire those around us. Guys, remember that competing is doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard.